vamos passar para o Emil Antonov, da Bulgária, que nos vai dar a sua perspectiva sobre a integração social e laboral destes trabalhadores, numa perspectiva da Bulgária. Emil, tens a palavra.
First, I want to start with this, that I'm not General Secretary in agricultural sector. I'm only a representative of the General Secretary, and my colleague, Pavel Cherisky, was working years ago like a General Secretary, and he is the specialist, but he has some difficulties with the languages. That's why I will represent you, the situation in Bulgaria. First, I want to start to show you that maybe most of the problems in this sector in Bulgaria are hidden maybe 100 years ago or more in the history of Bulgaria, because the Bulgarian people living in the Ottoman Empire in general were agricultures. Every family have some pieces of land, and 100 years ago, in the beginning of 20th century, more than 85% of the Bulgarians were living in small villages and were working on their land. They didn't have the culture of the trading or some intellectual work. They just had some cows or some lambs, and every day hard working on the field. And they were medium and small farmers in general. But for 100 years, everything changed totally. It's interesting that Bulgaria was the first country in the world after the First World War, appeared in the country, in the political life of the country, a party. And this party was agricultural party, and they won the elections. Officially, they entered the parliament, and they started to rule the country. And they ruled about 4 years. And they had a policy to defend, to protect all these small and little farmers. And it was a very amazing period when the core of the national policy was this helping all the people who are working on the fields. After the Second World War, this social structure of the Bulgarian society was totally destroyed. In fact, after the coming of the Communist Party to rule the country, it became destruction of all these small and medium farmers, and with advices of USSR, the country took their policy to become an industrial country, and all these lands were taken by the farmers and put in cooperatives. And in the 60s, it became very popular, all these people from the small villages to go in the cities and to forget everything they were working many decades before. It was popular, became popular to be an intellectual guy and to be in the city, to live in apartment, and not to be in the village. So you stop totally, you cut your connections with the village and with the field. After the fall of the Berlin Wall, after the changes, all these lands taken by the communists were started the process to give back to the people. And in the 90s, it became a process of again forming small and medium enterprises, some cooperatives, private laboring, agriculture process in all the country. And here we find two problems. First, in the communist system, we had very good educational system of educating specialists, engineers in the field of agriculture. After the changes, all these people, they just go west. They preferred to work as specialists in the Western Europe, in United States, in Canada. And here we see the first problem. It's a lack of specialists inside Bulgaria. In the beginning of 21st century, for last time, we had in our parliament a party which protects all these agricultural workers. 20 years ago, this party, agricultural party, who had a policy to protect agricultural workers, was destroyed or self-destroyed. I don't know the reasons, but this party disappeared. In fact, in the last 20 years, we don't have officially in the parliament representative of all these workers. In the last 20 years, the processes in Bulgaria were connected with disappearing of all these small and medium farmers, and all the land had gone in the hands of oligarchs, maybe 10 big companies in all the country, who are family enterprises, big enterprises, but they are like clans, like families, and they just give very low wages to their workers. Usually these workers are very low educated. Usually they are gypsies, and that's why people who in the 90s were medium and small farmers, now in the last 20 years, they just prefer to go west to work in Spain, in Italy, in Greece, and even not work like specialists, just to work normally. For them, it's a normal way. Maybe they are part of exploitation, but they prefer not to stay in Bulgaria, because in Bulgaria, this kind of work is on the worst level. So now I hope that for the future, it will be better. Maybe the government will find the way to protect again all these workers, and the trade unions are trying to do something more for the people who are basically inside. All the Bulgarians, they love their land, they love to work on the field, to work their own land. So the trade unions are trying to connect with other trade unions and to make some chains of protection. And there was a proposition maybe 3 years ago from EFAT to create one new net with trade unions in Italy, in Germany, in Austria, Romania, and Bulgaria to protect all these workers who go abroad to work. Officially, maybe you know, but I will say this, that there are two official trade unions in Bulgaria. I'm representative of Подкрепа, Confederation of Labor, and the other trade union is CTUB. In Подкрепа, we have a federation representing those working people in the sector of the agriculture, and our federation is called National Federation of Agriculture and Forestry. The main problems we meet are connected with the right to decent work, free choice, exercise of the profession and fair pay, safe and healthy working conditions, this is very important, and right for collective bargaining and control over compliance with the labor code. The biggest steps that we could make in the last years were with cooperating with French trade unions. Our Federation Agriculture and Forestry has cooperated with the French trade union in the field of agriculture and food workers, FIGA, CFDT. And this cooperation started in 2012, and the main activity is informing and consulting the rights of Bulgarian agricultural workers in France. Every year we run 2 information campaigns together with our colleagues from the French Union. One in Bulgaria, one campaign in Bulgaria and one campaign in France. During this information campaign in Bulgaria, we go to the regions, we go on the field with high unemployment percent from where our compatriots live for the farms of Western Europe. There are some very poor regions in the northwestern part of Bulgaria. Usually all these people from there, they go to work in agriculture of the Western Europe. We are doing the other campaign in some region of France where the most of those people work. And as a result of these good practices and this cooperation, we achieved the revocation of the license of the company for intermediary activities. First, this is one big success for us. And second, for providing services for seasonal work to a Bulgarian company, both companies performing these activities violating the workers' rights.
Emily, 1 minute.
Okay.
To conclude.
I conclude now. The other big problem in the sector of agricultural work in Bulgaria is the work of the women. Because as in many other countries, there is a pay gap between men and women. In our country, this gap in the wages is about 10 to 15%. And the other big problem is that most of these workers in Bulgaria in agriculture, they are not organized in trade unions. How we can help them and how can we reach them when they just don't want? And the problem is that many of those workers are low educated. They just don't know their rights. So for me, my opinion and the opinion of federation I represent is that first, Bulgarian workers in agriculture need it's information that they have rights and they have to use all these rights. Thank you.
Muito obrigado.